Uh, a very good afternoon to all the participants and the attendees who are listening to us in today's pleasant afternoon. My name is Puneet. I'm based out of Delhi. In Delhi, we have been uh, having a chiller wave which has been passing through the cities and then making us shiver. However, the upper part has been witnessing the snowfall, and I believe the weather at Gujarat region is relatively moderate and quite pleasant. It's good to have many people from Gujarat region in this particular webinar. Uh, Whenever we've been talking about the green buildings or the built environment, we as an individual have been more focused on the cost component. And there is a myth which says when people have been thinking that the green buildings are costing more in a tune of 18 to 20% earlier, and now we are still saying say 8 to 10% is what the additional cost need to be faced by the developers while going for a green buildings. Now, there have been the case studies with us which shows that no green buildings are not been that costly. However, hearing directly from the developer side who have practiced in the projects would always make a difference rather than we from the agencies, the certification agencies are saying that way. The major role or reducing this incremental cost from an 18% to a 0 to 0.51%, and in certain cases even goes for a savings in a construction. The important role has been played by the technology. The modern methods of construction on the subject where we have been deliberating more with the industry stalwart, Mr. Sameer Sinha, Sriram, Mr. Apurva, Mr. Pavan Mani. I've been very, very happy and pleased to welcome all of them on this webinar who has spared the time to come join us and are willing to share their thoughts, their experience on the modern methods of construction. I would especially thanks Mr. Sriram, if you allowed me. I'm sorry, I'm revealing this. Mr. Sriram has been tested positive yesterday with the COVID-19, and despite the fact he has been agreed to come and join us. Because he know that this is a very critical topic, and when a larger audience is getting benefited out of this, he has willingly and pleasantly come. Thank you very much, Sriram sir, for joining us. Now, without taking much time, I would like to invite Mr. Sameer Sinha for setting the context of this webinar. A brief on Mr. Sameer Sinha, as all of you been aware about Mr. Sameer Sinha. I should not say even a word. His presence itself speaks more than the words. That he has been an engineer, a master's in engineering from USA. He has many infrastructure projects done not only in the Gujarat region but across the globe. He's been currently as the chairman of IGPC Ahmedabad chapter and a member of our executive committee of IGPC. I'm handing over the mic to Mr. Sameer Sinha.
Thank you, Puneet. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm so happy to see some very close friends on the screen. Hi, Sriram. It's a pleasure to see you, and I'm so happy that you could join in spite of your COVID. You're such a positive person, so COVID also had to be positive with you. I'm sorry that it's a bad joke, but I'm just happy to see you and welcome, and thank you so much. Really appreciate your joining us in spite of your ill health. Pleasure to see you, Pavan, again, and welcome again. A real warm welcome to Apurva. Apurva Thakursi is a dear friend, and he's Honorable Secretary of the Gujarat Institute of Civil Engineers and Architects. We are sorry that Dr. Vatsal Patel, President of GICA, could not join, but we convey our regards and hopefully he can still make it. if he wears several hats and is a busy man, but we hope he can join later. The topic is extremely exciting, and I am here to learn because the experts that are here today are some of my favorite speakers. I have been involved with this Indian Green Building Council for the last couple of decades almost now. And these two stalwarts have really led this entire movement of modernization of construction methodology. And ours is a very traditional real estate remains a very traditional construction, especially engineering field, because unlike technology, unlike electrical, civil engineering still is a very traditional cement, concrete, grate, mortar, load-bearing structures. Nothing dramatically changes in terms of the engineering itself. The buildings are built in the same way, they're designed in the same way. The challenge is if we keep doing the same thing, we can't expect different results. And the future is going to be very, very different. And that is why I'm very excited to hear Sriram talk about what he's been practicing over the last several years that we all internally know about, but I'm sure the audience will be fascinated by that. The other challenge that I'm hoping both our speakers will address is sustainability. There is no escaping it now. There is something that we have been touting for the last 20 years, but the world has really caught on to it now. And I'm really happy that India is one of the countries in the world which is taking the lead on sustainability. We are committing ourselves to target that we've never done before. The Prime Minister is totally committed to it. We keep increasing our targets every year. Today, I think we are leading the sustainability movement in the world with our net zero emission targets. And we will definitely be the flag bearer of sustainability in the coming years. And that cannot happen. We cannot achieve sustainable development unless we have technology on our side, unless we have digitization on our side. These two areas we must really incorporate into traditional civil engineering, construction methodology, if we really want to see a different world tomorrow. And if we don't, we'll be left behind, let me assure you, because things are changing. Everything that was being done traditionally all these years is being done very, very differently now. There is what is known as digital disruption happening. If we can create a digital dual of anything that we have been doing, if we don't do it, it will be done by somebody else and we'll be left behind. So with that, like I said, we could go on and on talking about it. It's very interesting to hear these speakers today. We are really privileged to have you guys with us. So I'm not going to delay anymore. Let's keep all the questions. So Puneet, I don't know how you want to do the questions, but let us start right away. And thank you guys once again for joining.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So on a question and answer, I would request all the participants to use to have a liberal use of a chat and a Q&A box. As and when we have been receiving it, we would be taking it only after when both the presentation are been done, so that everyone would get more benefited, and we would not stretch on time, because time is more critical and crucial, be it this webinar or any of the project development and implementation stages. I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Apur, who's the Honorable Secretary of GICEA, and he is an engineer by academics and into a real estate business for this special address. Mr. Apur.
Thank you very much, Mohit. Extremely sorry because there is something wrong with my video. So I think that is not working somehow, but I think I'm audible enough, right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to everyone. Our President, Mr. Vatsal Patel, was supposed to come on this webinar, but somehow he is busy at the moment, so he is not with us at the moment. But maybe very soon he will be here. So then we will ask him, or he will give his note or his views on this topic. First of all, thank you very much to IGBC for arranging this webinar with GICEA. You all must be knowing about GICA, the Gujarat Institute of Civil Engineers and Architects, which is popularly known as GICA. It was established in the year 1947, and we are celebrating our 75th anniversary along with India's 75th independence year. And we are arranging so many webinars and talk shows during this 75th year. So I hope in future also we will do some more and more webinars or maybe in some seminars. I know IGBC is doing wonderful work to promote green building concept since many years. And many developers are coming up with this topic and with this concept. When we go to some, maybe in redevelopment project also, then members normally ask us that which kind of certificate you will get. So they also know that what is green building. So in modern construction, which is our today's topic, modern method, I know the green building concept will be the key part of the modern construction in coming years and in recent scenario also. Many developers are now coming up with this, as I said, and they are also knowing that the silver, gold, platinum certificates are there. So everyone is now aware of this concept and method. So I must congratulate IGBC under the leadership of Samir Bhai. They are doing wonderful job to promote this. I know many people ask us about solar system sustainability, energy conservation, because now these words are very commonly used regarding many modern construction as well as for green building concept. I think in today's topic, modern method of construction, this is going to be the best and the most important role this green building will take part in modern construction. So we are also ready at GICA if we arrange more and more workshops for students as well as professionals. Some developers can come and we can teach them what is the system for green building, for modern construction. And we are always open for that. So you can take up our platform and we can arrange more and more workshops. So this was I want to know. I want to ask, tell everyone, most welcome to GICA, and we are always open for all these kind of modern things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Apurva. You have rightly mentioned that the making the people aware is the most critical task nowadays, and that's the same reason why we have been having this webinar, so that the people would be made aware about what all the latest methods of a construction to speed up the development activities as well as reduce the cost implications or the financial burdens or lending burdens on the projects. With this, without taking much time, I've been welcoming Mr. Pavan Mehane. I've been very, very thankful for him to agree for this panel. And Mr. Pavan has been bringing up 3 decades of the construction and infra sector experience onto the table. Mr. Pavan has been the regional director at MAF, and he's been very, very he's a person who has been implemented many innovative technology is with the clients across various sectors. Mr. Pavan Mehane.
Thank you very much, Puneet. Great to be here. Thanks, Samir. I hope you can all hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear, sir.
Okay, great. So it's wonderful to be here. I must admit I have a really good soft corner for Gujarat. My family lived in Godhra and Baroda for almost 25 years. So I definitely have a good realization of what the local landscape over there is, so it's really be a pleasure to speak to everyone today. I'm going to present some views over here, from a basis perspective, and you will allow me a little bit of liberty, in fact, also of giving you a brief about MACE also, and I'll do that through the presentation, more from providing a context for you, where we are coming from. Admittedly, the examples that I will showcase are from UK, but we have been looking at how we implement elements of that over here. I'm I'm sure there are other examples locally from here, and there are partners that we are working with, trying to implement similar kinds of things, in India very much. So it's really just to explore this more. I do hope this is more of a two-way dialogue, and I'm sure I will learn equally, if not more, than what you learn from me today. We may face a bit of a technical challenges as we go along, and we just have to play it by the ear. Himanshu and I, tried to run through some test runs yesterday. I must admit it was not fully successful. So there will be a little bit of a possibly trial and error over here. So I apologize for that upfront. Himanshu, I've also, in case things really get bad, I've shared a link with you. Possibly you may be able to download that. I know it's a fairly large file, so we'll just see how that goes. I'm going to try, what we did yesterday, which was to share the second screen, and let's see, if that works. Probably in the best way. So just to confirm, hopefully that screen is visible now.
Yes, Pawan, it is.
Perfect. Okay. So what you see on the front, you will hear more about this. Our approach on these two buildings in London. It's actually just in East London. In fact, part of what we call the London Legacy Development Corporation, which is where the London Olympics were held. And now for the past 10 years, we've been working in those areas, actually redeveloping those areas for its legacy use. So just a bit about Mace, so you understand, the background where we are coming from. That's what our purpose is. We just actually rolled it out last year. It's to redefine the boundaries of ambition. And it's really to see, how we can work with other stakeholders, our clients, the governments, our staff, to really deliver more, deliver better, deliver really good work for the community, and build lasting places that matter. Within Mace, we have three priorities, and that closely matches what was being said at the start of this discussion: environmental, social, and governance. We all know that every business has to be fully relevant to be able to sustain in the market, and that's exactly what we are doing. So our first priority is pursuing a sustainable world. We are looking at 10% year on year on overall corporate carbon reduction perspective. What that means is hopefully 1 million tons by 2026, and also having a net gain of 500 hectares in biodiversity. Our second priority is growing together, and that's growing together with our clients, with our staff, and the community. So, what you see on the bottom right over there are the kinds of things we want to have from clients, from our colleagues, our staff, and also the value we want to provide to society. 700 million pounds a year, that's about 7,000 crore rupees a year. And the last one is really, showcasing again, the graphic over there actually has our Mace Tech Solutions, which is about, how we build automated buildings. So we want to reduce our accident frequency rate. We want to, develop a client satisfaction score, and then more than the profit that we make, we want to invest in R&D, because that's how we believe we will be able to, provide value to the society, and in turn create value for our clients, for our staff, and ourselves. So just a bit further about us, 4 goals for us: safety first, client focus, creating opportunity for our staff, and integrity. We operate across the value chain for built infrastructure, but it's primarily vertical infrastructure. Anything related to horizontal infrastructure, we do play a smaller part in it, but our focus, as you can see over here also, is on the built infrastructure. Something that makes us a bit apart from others is we operate across the entire life cycle of projects. So we are a small developer in our own right. We are a project management firm, a program management firm. That's the part that I work on most. We are also a contractor, primarily in the UK, a significant contractor. You're talking about 15,000 crore rupees of construction work on our own books. And finally, we are a facility management operator. We pretty much spread all across the globe, a little over 6,000 staff. India, we are about 5% of that, so about 300 staff. Overall revenue, again, in the range of about 18,000 to 20,000 crores on an annual basis. And that just gives you a smattering of, where our projects are located. And the last one about ourselves over here, before we jump into the modern methods, gives you an idea of the clientele that we have in India. So what is modern methods of construction, right? Sometimes these words, maybe they're used, in vain. From our perspective, and this is coming from somebody who's actually involved in, doing actual contracting work on our own. What we look at it is, the first thing we look at is, what is the space that is being built? What is the type of facility that is being built? So that's what you see, on the top right over there. We try to define, what are those elements that are there, and we then categorize them into different areas. From there, we then try and break it down into different objects. So it's a system tree, what you see over there, and really that's taking it, kind of from the ground up, if you would read from left to right. So what we're talking about is, we are facilitating works initially. You've got substructure, you've got superstructure, you've got finishes, you've got the furnishings and equipment, and then you come on to services. You could otherwise just have a complete prefab building on its own. And then the other element is external works. Now, within each of these, we then started looking at, different elements to it and what parts can play. So, if you are doing substructure, can you be modernizing the piling works, for example? If you're doing the superstructure, could you be doing a precast slab? Could you be doing engineering the props that are there, the scaffolding that's there? Could you be modernizing the facade systems? So those are then different elements that we start looking at, within each of those systems. We then take on and start talking about, how do we standardize these things? And this is something I must admit is now becoming more common in India, where earlier everything was, very much custom built, that we are getting some level of standardization. So that's what it's really looking at. Can we be prefabricating and buying some sub-assemblies? A common example could be, could you actually buy a full modular kitchen? Now in India, for the modular kitchen, we still have a lot of different variety that's available. But could you buy an entire kitchen module that's fully built up, and then you just pick it up and put it in place? Bathroom pods is another example. And these are things that are happening in India. So it's, not as if it's completely new to this market. Having said that, it's not something that's common. When you buy these different elements, how do you assemble them? And at the end of the day, could you actually take a certain element? Could you take a room, break it up into a kit of parts, right? Okay, there are the walls, there's the slab, within the walls, you've got your, chalk hut and, windows that are coming in. You've got your, MEP elements that are there. How do you actually create that wall? Then could be broken up into certain units. Do you need to keep it such that it's physically liftable, or what kind of equipment do you need to be able to lift that? And it's really, and we'll see this towards the end of the presentation, coming up with that kit of parts. And then what you see on the right side, the bottom right, is more about logistics. In India also we have a number of precast operators, but then they would be of course limited to the local geography, or what distance can you be transporting equipment, elements, sorry, that are fully constructed and could then install over there. So just to give you an idea of our journey from in terms of modern methods of construction, it's not something that's new. Our company has been in existence for a little over 30 years. And actually, we've been doing, you could say, modern methods of construction since day one, starting off from 1990 in Heathrow. I would not take you through all of these examples and mention them every day, but maybe I'll just showcase a few. Heathrow Pier. So this is 2003. You're talking about a 60-foot pier, at an airport. So, when you're walking to your gates, that kind of a 60-foot length element that's fully constructed. So, the whole 4 elements are there. The floor, the roof, the walls. You've got all the MEP equipment that's already installed. You've got the flooring that's installed. You've got the lighting that's installed. A completely built piece is then just transported and put into place. That's something we did in 2003. 2008, control tower. Urge you to maybe take a look at this on YouTube. The entire control tower could not be built at the location where it was supposed to be installed because of conflict with the airport operations. We built that entire control tower 300 feet away, fully constructed, fully lit up. We then transported it, jacked it up. So no tower crane, no nothing, just jacked it up in a 24-hour operation. And it was functional after 24 hours. So where it was supposed to be installed, that entire control tower was moved into place and was operational within 24 hours without any impact on the airport operations. What you see, this East Village Jump Factory, so that's taking you to 2016. And you will see videos on that where there are these 28 and 30-story buildings, which we were able to construct in a very rapid manner. So, of course, doing a modern construction or modern manufacturing, there are a lot of parallels in there. Now, we've got to thank people like Henry Ford for introducing, just-in-time car manufacturing, right? We know how the Japanese have done the just-in-time, the Kanban systems that they introduced, where each element is made and the whole car or any other vehicle is constructed. Why is it that we cannot do that in construction, right? It was mentioned right in the beginning that we still typically are going by the age-old systems that we have been using. Nothing wrong against them, but can they be made more efficient? Can they be made more sustainable? That's what we need to look at, and that's what our approach has been. So here are some of the elements. Again, some of these are already available to us here in India. There are others that we are looking at. So you look at on the top left, that's something that's quite well available in terms of unitized cladding. Top right, prefabricated MEP services. Yes, they've been tried in some places around here. That's something that, of course, has become quite common in other countries. Modular precast concrete. Unfortunately, that's not had that much success here as yet. Again, becoming fairly common outside. How do you have, for example, double wall systems with the MEP services that are already pre-installed? So all you're doing is, putting that each element in place over there. Bottom left, this was really an iconic project for us. In fact, it really set a base on the construction scene. This is the London Eye. What you see is the London Eye over there at an angular is being jacked into place. So this was just a year before 2000. Basically, everybody threw up their hands and said, we can't do this. This can't be constructed. The contractor had walked away. We actually became the de facto contractor, pulled in a lot of stakeholders, constructed the full London Eye, ring on the river, pieced it together on the Thames, and then just jacked it into place in 2 movements. And prefabricated bathroom utility pods, that's fairly common. I hope this video is visible. I'm not sure if any of the sound will come through or not. I'm just going to.
Sound is not there. You may explain if you would like to.
Okay. So sorry about that. But basically what you're seeing is, let me then just stop it for a second and just take it a bit back. But basically what you're going to see is one floor being completed on this building. This is a 28-story tower. There were 2 towers, a 28 and a 30-story tower. About 7,000 square feet floor plate. So nothing, incredibly huge. The way we constructed it, and we'll get to that to the end, was trying to complete each floor in 1 week. So that's what you will see. Oops. And that's what you see, the building on the right over there. So let me just turn this video on now. So what you see is over there, the precast elements being brought in, these doubled walled units being installed. You've got the propping for the next floor, that's being installed. Your MEP plumbing stacks being put in, your pods being putting in for the bathroom, cupboards. So one of the things you will notice over here is this is actually all being done by Gantry Cranes. We did not have any tower cranes on this. And what we did really was create a factory-like environment by having a 6-floor truss, which would jump up floor by floor. And by providing this covering, we were able to maintain, protect ourselves against the weather, which particularly in London, can get pretty bad, can get cold, it can get windy, it can be snowing, all of those elements, and providing a kind of a factory-like environment, within the building construction area. So you've got all the, beam elements coming in. You can see that's the amount of time that's been worked over there. Installing slabs, Omnia slabs. It's a half concrete already, and the lattice work is sticking out. Putting in precast stairs and half landings. In this particular case, then, putting in the horizontal MEP modules, you getting all the rebar in for, the flooring to stitch that up. Once the whole thing is completed, we jack it up. So we started up from 55 hours. We're down to, so it's about 40 hours worth of work that's being done on the floor. And so getting all the rebar and we're ready for the reinforcement now, pour. And about 4 hours of pour, and the floor is done. So what were we able to achieve with this? Well, firstly, it was our safest delivery. So, we were able to make sure that we were operating in a very planned, organized manner, and 2.2 million hours, of safe. We were able to get 2 times the cycle time improvement. There were lesser deliveries that were there because there were fully constructed elements that were being brought to site, and a significant reduction in manual work. Effectively, while it took us a bit longer to start the works, we were able to complete the full building in 44 weeks. So 28 floors in roughly about 9 months time. is what we were able to achieve from the start of excavation of that building to handing the keys over. And really where we saved a lot of time was typically on this kind of a building, you would have the civil construction works happening, and there is a lag between and the amount of time it takes for the MEP and all the finishing works, which we were able to do much more rapidly, one after the other.
Mr. Pawan, I would request you to conclude in another 4 to 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to speed up then. So this shows, the different elements, that we've already seen. We've again talked about how we would put these things together. We've now moved on to the next level. What you see over here, for example, would be a constructed element which has got the flooring. It's already got the side wall installed. The yellow parts that you see are actually the prop for the next floor. And this is what we are calling our Mace Tech solutions. This is what we have applied on a further project after that. That shows, for example, the productivity that we've been able to get. It's almost 3 times what we have on other projects. We were able to reduce the number of vehicles that came in. We were able to reduce the embodied energy. So you're talking about the sustainable element. We were able to, reduce that, reduce the waste on site. And I'll show you this. That's again actually showing that Mace Factory approach over there. And that's a different element. So I'll move on to this one. So what we've done is, again, different elements that we are presenting, whether it's MEP, facades, pods, finishes, structural elements. Where we are right now is about 40% of our work is being done off-site and about 60% is on-site. What we want to achieve is actually 80%, 85% off-site and much lesser on-site. And how are we doing this? Again, everybody is familiar with BIM. How do you take that from a 3D perspective, add time, add cost, add operations? So when we start working on a project, we are first looking at what's the end use going to be. We get the operator involved during the design stage of the phase, of the project, so that when we are handing over, we already know exactly how things are going to work. On the right, you see, I know these are all simple things. We all know it. How do you take it to the last level of detailing? I was in our global innovation board. I'm honored to be a member of that. We were looking at how we're going to be using this. It's actually a dog, right? A robotic dog, Boston Dynamics. It's called Spot. And how are we going to put a Trimble laser scanning equipment on it and actually do the scanning of our entire building space 7 times faster than what a human being would do. That's the level we are operating at over there right now. These are the kind of things we would do when we are planning a project, right? We are just using building digital twins of projects, seeing exactly what kind of equipment we will be using, placing it on what we believe is going to be the construction site. We know exactly what the reach is, and testing all of these systems out before we actually go onto site and actually start doing the works. And using different technologies. A lot of what you see over here is on the right side, for example, it's a digital war room. We can look at the schedule, we can look at costs, we can look quality reports, safety reports. All of these are available to, thankfully, just on a tablet. What you see is a very large data center, that we have constructed. And we've actually doing roughly about 3,000 to 4,000 crores worth of just data center construction using virtual reality. Again, doing all these elements upfront, discussing the schedule in detail, the cost elements in detail, doing laser scanning, moving things around, very quickly, and understanding, what that impact of those elements is, going forward. I will show only a bit of this video just to give you an idea. It's not just in India that we are doing something like this, but also in Vietnam. So this is a 450-meter tall tower, 450 meters. I mean, that's a tall one. right? And we have been the project managers. We were involved on this project right from the start. We were looking at, how this can be constructed in a safe manner. So that's what we did on that particular project. And this is just to give you a flavor of the level of detail we would go in. We have actually come up with this kit of parts for a school. So what we have done is we've really taken down the design time for a school from 300 hours to actually just 40 hours. In 40 hours, we can design our entire school using different kit of parts, using different topologies, depending upon how the school needs to be constructed. There are different elements that are defined. Each of those elements is then broken down, and this is just different examples of that. And what you get at the end of the day from all of this is actually a school. Is a school which you're able to then look at exactly what elements are there for that school. That's what you've constructed. You can do a fly through of that, because each of these elements, down to individual door handles, hinges, desks, everything, these are common across all schools, right? Those are all defined, and we are used to be able to construct that entire element in a digital format. So this is where we are at finally. We've got the system pre-processed map. We've identified platforms. We've identified costs and volume. We're looking at, how do we procure each of these elements better? And then finally, we've got the building constructed. How do we turn it over to operations? Over to you, Puneet.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhavan. And it actually shows that how important the planning, important role of planning actually plays. And that ensures that if we have been having everything on board on a day one, that makes a lot of difference in a project development and consultation. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhavan. I believe all of our participants must have numerous queries and questions. I would request them to please put those in the chat box or in a Q&A box, and we'll take it after having the another session with Mr. Sriram, K. Sriram. Thank you, sir, for joining us despite not that great health. And it's always been pleasure to listen, Mr. Sriram, because not only because he's been the MD of our Tapovan projects, but he's actually a passionate teacher. He teaches us, and it reminds our school days that how our teachers are actually motivating us for a good social cause. And that is actually the style of Mr. K. Sriram. I always love to hear from him. And I'm just handing over the mic to Mr. K. Sriram to hear directly from him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Puneet. Thank you. And I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. So Samir and the entire team at IGVC Ahmedabad, so nice to see you all again. And so say hi to Jakshay also from my side. So that's wonderful. And I think we will catch up with Jayesh by the end of this program. Hopefully. Will he be there by the end of this program? Hopefully, yes. Anyhow, it's always a pleasure to do a program with the IGVC Ahmedabad involved, because somehow Ahmedabad is a city which has two great architectural gurus for me. Really, one is, of course, the world knows Dr. B.V. Doshi, and of course, the other one is architect Kirti Shah. These two are wonderful architects who have done some path-breaking work, and I really look up to them as real big gurus of the entire architectural fraternity. So now, when actually Himanshu asked me about talking about this, I was off late. We have really done a lot of work on what we can actually do practically, because for decades we've been going around the world listening to lots of gyan coming in from a lot of people. Just now, I should compliment my other speaker, Mr. Maini, on what wonderful work they have done, and how futuristic the entire construction process has become. So we also went around the world, heard a lot of these things, but then by the time we could get back home and we wanted to try to implement it, always the threshold costing, the scale, etc., was always a challenge. So we almost ended up doing nothing. We almost ended up always going around listening to many things, but we could really not get back home and get back to implement whatever we wanted to do. So this is when when we traveled to Germany in 2018 for the Kredai NatCon, which was hosted by Kredai Gujarat, Jakshay and team. So at that time, actually, when I went to the hotel, it was late in the night. Morning, I opened the window, and right behind was a school. And I saw the school built so beautifully in exposed concrete. There was just no plaster anywhere. It was just a very small school. I'll show you some photos of that as we go along. And then I started exploring what exactly the Germans do in their construction system. Because wherever you go in Germany or a good part of Europe, you see such beautiful shutter finish concrete, which is not painted, which doesn't have any putty on it. No, forget about plaster. So, and how are they achieving all these things? Because the minute we come back to India, we always talk about aluminum formwork. The first thing they tell you, 200 repetitions, andara. If not, don't come in at all. And then what happens to threshold costing? You're talking about at least of 3, 4, 5 crores of investments. And most of the projects in good part of our country are actually small projects which cannot afford these things. So I really wanted to find out what these guys do. So I just start sharing my screen. So yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Screen is visible, right? Okay.
Yes.
So this was the school which I was talking to you all about. It was just right behind our hotel, and as we opened the window, we saw the school, all built in exposed concrete surfaces, so beautifully done, so neatly done, and this is, we went again to the BMW center, and there again we saw this such beautiful exposed concrete finishes everywhere. This is something unbelievable. Not you don't see even any attempt at them trying to do anything on that, because, and these are some of the building which we also came across very close to our hotel in Berlin. So, so if we just look at these beautiful surfaces which have been achieved using, so there we really came across the whole aspect to find out that what they actually use is basically they're using the best quality of formwork, and their formwork is modular. It is very, very different from the sort of formwork we use, and whatever we have been taught. I mean, what we've been seeing vis-a-vis aluminum formwork or whatever traditional formwork was. So now I will just show you a small video of. This is a system called MEWA, which is the same technology which was used. Is the video playing on the screen?
Yes.
See, this is a formwork system which can either be assembled by hand, or it can be ganged up. But a very, very simple system which takes just about maybe 5% the operations of what aluminum formwork takes. A 3-meter height panel has just got 3 tie rods and three clips like this. And this is some of the most beautiful system called Alcus, which is good for 1,000 uses. Every panel can be handled by hand. I mean, it doesn't require crane generally. And most importantly, this formwork is good for 1,000 uses. This is one of the most innovative facing material you've got called Alcus, which has a 7-year warranty on it, and it's a fantastic material which gives you very, very good shutter finish concrete. This is used instead of plywood or a metal fascia. See, as you can see, the entire height of the formwork has just got 3 clamps. That's all, 3 formwork clamps. Very simple to drive in. My dear friends, generally one floor of aluminum formwork has got 5,000 to 6,000 operations, whereas this will be having maximum about 150 operations. You just got three sets of tie rods in the entire height of the structure, and 3 clamps. Extremely easy to de-shutter. So what is the big difference between the sort of formwork we use otherwise and what we are trying to talk about now is this is modular. All your openings, you just have blockouts, or you've got negative areas within the formwork, which you can do with either plywood or anything like that. So all that it does is it's very, very simple. I can just show it to you. See, this is one project where they used the same technology, very similar technology in Hyderabad, and where you can see the outer walls are cast in one go. Very, very, very minimal deployment of formwork in this whole aspect, because the outer walls are cast separately. And as you can see on the right side of the one or the photograph, they're casting the internal walls as a secondary action, and then they pour the roof for the whole thing together. So what happens is, on a very, very small threshold costing, you can start using the best of technology, because all these openings what you see are actually just negative areas which are there in the formwork itself. So there are no openings as such. So it's very, very easy to use this on multiple projects. You buy one set of these formwork, you can use it on multiple projects. You can do multiple walls at a time. So you can break this whole thing down into, for example, many of them are talking about a floor every month, a floor every day, a floor every 3 days, etc., etc. But a good part of our market doesn't require that speed. We want the economy. We want it to be more sustainable, because definitely anything you do quicker, anything you do with less of other operations. Because one thing which I've asked quite a few of the construction engineers across the country is, if there's one thing which you're not under control, it is plastering. The next thing which you're not under control, it is your masonry. These two things are very, very difficult for you to control on a site. And these are things which we need to mechanize, and we need to be getting out of the situations where we are today. We need to be having concrete and seeing to it things can go much faster. So how are we going to start doing this with a very, very minimal deployment of formwork? Because I wouldn't mind having my entire floor take 1 full month if the whole thing is going to be completed. if my threshold costing is only going to be about 20 or 25 lakhs instead of being 2 crores. So this is where there's a big change which can come through. Whatever I'm talking today, this is start affair. This can be a serial, I mean, because there's a lot of discussion which can go on this topic. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg, but this is the future, my dear friends, because this is where you can really adapt good technology, but at the same time take it ahead. I'll just show you a few more glimpses of the same project in Hyderabad. See, here you can see by using a technology like this, on the left, you can see with the columns, and beams, how much of area is being cut off in the realizable floor area. But at the same time here, because it's all shear walls, how clean and neat it is. And especially with the RERA issues coming up, 5-year guarantees we need to be giving on buildings, we need to be making our buildings much better than what we are doing right now. So this is again just one shot of how it is done. You can see the walls which are come up walls are all done in one go. And multiple walls are done on different days, so that it's because you can start optimizing use of formwork, and you can see the openings are all cutouts which are there. Again, very, very little use of formwork, but excellent shutter finish concrete. This is being done on an Indian scenario, my dear friends. This is not anywhere else. You can see very good, neat concrete finishes, but very, very minimal deployment of formwork. This is the building that you can see fully completed. See, in a typical sense, you would be spending crores of rupees on formwork and completing such a building maybe in about 3 to 4 months. But with very small costing, very, very small, maybe about 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs of investment, you're maybe completing this building in about 9 months. So this is what we want. 9 months is fine for us, but we want to be using technology, we want to be getting good quality, and we don't want rework. So this is something which is really going to help us a lot on that front. See, this is again where you can see we've created on a close-up shot. On the top, you can see that the formwork, the rebar is placed and the formwork is being placed. All that they're going to do is to have blockouts. As you can see, there's a blockout here which is in place still for the ventilator. So you have blockouts and you just pour the concrete. But now for a place like this, you can see very, very minimal use of formwork. But excellent finishes which they're achieving, but minimum the deployment of formwork on this whole thing. So here, when we worked with Deva for one of our projects on how we can optimize the entire formwork. Here you can see the entire floor plan. This has got 10 apartments in a floor, 5 on each side. On the top, what you see, the 5 is exactly a mirror image of the bottom. So all that we wanted to do was to deploy very, very minimum formwork, but we wanted to achieve 1 floor every 15 days. So how do we do this? So this is the only shaded part of what we did, what we had. We went for formwork like this. Again, standard panels. We did not go for any panels which were of different sizes, custom made for us or whatever. 95% of this is standard panels. 5% is filler panels here and there. So using the same formwork, as you can see on the left side, it says cycle 1. Then we wanted to go to the next 2 apartments for cycle 2. So using the same formwork, we could do cycle 2 without any additions. And all that we required here was the cycle 3. We required this additional piece of formwork which we had to take. So what happened was, with a very, very minimum deployment of formwork, you could be achieving something which is world class and something which can go much, much faster than your traditional construction. And most importantly, because they're all shear walls which are monolithically cast together, definitely your issues of rework, then your problems which are going to come in, cracks, etc., your regular masonry and plaster will definitely not come in here. So once you're done with casting each and every apartment separately, you cast the whole roof in one go. This is what you can see here. You can see all the ones which are the solid areas are the walls which are going to be cast in concrete. and the rest of it is just filler. You can do it with your regular plywood or whatever roof centering material you already have, because this is, you don't have to be investing something on this again, because all of us already have a lot of roof centering material available with us, and this can just go in so that the roof is totally monolithic. There's no joint anywhere in the roof. You don't have any problem with leakages, etc., etc. So this is where we're trying to marry these two things, and how we can come out of this from where we are. So this, my dear friends, is one of my humble effort at putting through a presentation which I feel all of us can do. It is something which all of us can surely do. And I just want to exit from screen sharing. 1 minute. Yeah. So this is something which was an humble attempt to try and find out how we can come out with something something which all of us can actually go ahead and implement tomorrow. I mean, it's something which is very much required, because whatever we do, whenever we are going to be embracing any technology like this, we are doing our bit for sustainability, because our traditional methods of construction create a lot of noise, create a lot of dust, and create a lots of chaos all over the place. So how are we going to minimize all these things? And most important thing is time, because the longer you're on a site for a longer period of time, you're polluting the place and you are causing more of disruption to the entire environment. So this, my dear friends, was my humble attempt at something which is very, very expressly doable. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience. So I'm looking forward to take questions as and when Puneet hands it over to us.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It's always been a pleasure to look at that what has been inspired at Germany, and then the similar things what we can do with a much better way by looking at the bright minds available in the country. Thank you very much. With this, we have been receiving a good response on the question and answer session. Many queries has been raised up. Still, I would request, if the participants have any queries and have not put in the Q&A chat box or chat box, please do so. We would be taking as many as possible. Now to start with, we have a question with Mr. Pawan. Mr. Pawan, God is asking that this 3D printing is a sustainable construction technique. We are observing a very few and a small scale installation. What would be the future?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I'd probably use it maybe on the stock market first. But no, jokes apart. No, you're right. Unfortunately, 3D construction hasn't really come out the way people had hoped it would. And I think that happens with all technologies. I think there is an initial promise that is shown, but you then really have to go out and test it out in the systems. I'm sure there will be continual improvements that will happen in there. But at the present time, frankly, even we are not really seeing that many use cases. And personally, we've really not been involved much on the 3D construction side. Most of our work has been focused on offsite construction, and not as much as the 3D part of it.
Yeah.
Puneet, I can just add to this with your permission. I mean, we have personally done a lot of work on this 3D printing, and actually worked very closely with the team which has been doing the 3D work at IIT Chennai. So the aspect is, surely certain components of our buildings can start being 3D printed. I think that is a low-hanging fruit for us. Certain components of a building can definitely start. We can start 3D printing that, and that I think you're going to start seeing very soon, because the cost of a 3D printer has come down drastically today, and there is a big problem on the material to be used for 3D printing. So now there've been a lot of breakthrough on that aspects as well. So one thing we can definitely see is maybe a lot of our architectural elements, many other elements which are there, which can be 3D printed and then incorporated in buildings. This is something which I feel is a low-hanging fruit which can come through quite fast.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And you rightly mentioned about that how those the architecture element can be incorporated. And the same is linked with the another questions that at times those component, the architectural component has been compromised while the priority has been given on the need for speed things. So in those the precast technologies or as a concrete what we've been using. So how that can be eliminated, means having a right mix of the speed as well as the architectural component, how that can be worked upon?
You want me to take the question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. See, first of all, I think we all need to understand what architecture is all about, especially when you come from the land of Mr. V.V. Doshi. And this thing, it's all about space. Please understand this. It's not about facades. It's not about those aspects. It's more about space. When you really have to start looking at it in the third dimension as well and the fourth dimension as well. So that is really what architecture is all about. It's not about certain architectural elements, etc., etc. So it is basically about space and space management and how exactly you are going to harness what has been given to us by God, by nature. So this is something which the building needs to harness, be it ventilation, be it light, whatever. So this is something which, this is all what actually combines into being architecture. And that is definitely something which can be very easily harnessed, which can be easily answered by doing what we have to be doing with speed. Because if you are only talking about some architectural features which need to be added, fine. We just had the answer here. Let us 3D print it to fix it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question to
yes.
Sriram and to both the panelists actually?
Please.
So Sriram very rightly said, architecture is all about the space we create. The challenge, I think, with India is that we are multiple countries into one, and we have multiple economies working at the same time. So where I totally understand where Mr. Maini is coming from, when there are large-scale projects and we can standardize things, but standardization in our architectural design is a huge challenge, and it must remain, because we do very different things for different people, and architects design homes very differently than they design malls, for example. There's been a big move towards standardizing at least the sizes of windows and doors and aluminum sections. But what has your experience, both Sriram and Maini, in terms of standardization in architectural design in what you're seeing these days in India?
Yeah, I think Pawanji, you can take the question first. I'll take it later.
Okay. So Mr. Sriram will be more, will probably be better able to answer this, with a larger amount of experience. My limited view on this is that, we are unfortunately, and I'm saying it unfortunately, still seeing too much of a flexibility and too much of a variation. So I'm really not seeing much standardization as yet. And while it's good to have that flexibility, it just makes it so much more difficult. I think we could do definitely with a bit more standardization. And I think the level of efficiencies that will bring into the system will be incredibly significant. Samir, like you, I lived in the US, worked there for about 12 years, or lived there for about 12 years. And it was very clear cut. And I'm not saying everything needs to be cookie cutter approach. But at least if about half of our elements are standardized, I think there are incredible efficiencies to be gained.
Fine. I think, Samir, to answer your question, to a large extent, if you look at it, there has been a fair element of standardization when it comes to housing, especially in mass housing and in vertical, wherever the housing is vertical. So I was actually speaking to the PVC window manufacturers, and now they were saying that they have seen there's a huge change where, more or less window sizes have now been standardizing a 6x4, 5x4, and those, there's a big difference which has been happening. Same with the door openings, etc. One thing we are seeing is that more and more mass housing is taking place in our country, especially because of this Pradhan Mantri Yojanas which have been coming through. And one thing which I saw, when I've actually traveled across the country to see a good part of all this, the PMAY urban and as far as the rural which has happened, I see that there's to a large extent standardization has come in there. We are seeing the same standard, same sizes of windows, same size of this, and also we are seeing a standardization on the height of your commode, on the height of your mixer, etc., which have been coming in. That is something which I never expected our country to see. But the movement has started, but baby steps, long way to go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So I have another question to Mr. Pavan. As India is a unique country having its unique challenges, the technology which is being currently followed, which we have listened to you, we have learned about it from you. It has been an important imported technology. Do we have the provisions of a customization to the unique challenges in terms of the product, material, technology, availability, resources, humans, labor? So what kind of a customization possibility is there in the technologies?
So firstly, I don't think, we are that unique. I think there are several other, countries that are similar to us. And if you look at, what might have been happening in some of the developed countries, 30, 40 years ago, is similar to, what we are doing today. So I think, the world is more similar than dissimilar. We were working on a project in Peru, for example, which is quite similar to here, and Vietnam is not that different from here. And Peru, it was kind of the equivalent of the, Asian Games. This is the Pan American Games that were being held over there. They needed to construct, this is about 1,100 dwelling units in just under a year's time. These were, I think, about 25, 30-story buildings. The only technology that they used was planning, right? They planned everything properly. It was conventional formwork, right? They got the design and they stuck to it. The specifications were very clear. On the basis of that, the procurement was well defined and it was done in a timely manner. Our own team from UK was almost shocked at the speed at which the Peruvian contractors could deliver just using conventional formwork. So it's not rocket science, but yes, what needs to happen is there needs to be more emphasis given on the pre-construction activities. There needs to be more effort given on looking at all the elements during the design stage, on locating those clashes that are there. You don't necessarily need BIM for doing that. I went to in Belgium. They have this expo. They have built this incredibly complex structure, steel, 1956. Yeah, all designed by hand and delivered within 18 months. So we can do all of these things, but what we need to do is not say that design will be done at 8 rupees a kilo kind of thing. Yeah, it's not vegetables we are buying. It's actually some thought going behind those elements and being done in a very thorough and detailed manner. So I think, to me, that's the first thing that needs to happen in our country. And then we need to look at what are the different elements that we can then standardize, do offsite. There's a number of elements that are already happening now, whether it's MEP modules that are being done or other elements, but all of that has to be done in a very planned and detailed manner upfront. Not that, yes, let's start construction. Let's just get us the drawings for the raft, and you can give us the the basement drawings after 1 week and 2 weeks, and then get me the ground floor and then the first floor every as every 6 weeks goes along or something. That's not how construction is done. So I think all of what you're seeing in terms of the technology parts of it, that's just a very small part of it. The main part of that is all the planning and design and everything that's happening beforehand to enable that construction. Then you can start putting like Mr. Sriram showed. It's just it's a Lego thing. You can start piecing different elements together, but you've got to do a lot of stuff beforehand.
Right. Thank you. That's where the planning plays a very important and vital role. Now, allow me to jump the rope and then I'll come to Mr. Samir Sinha. I have questions see, we have been talking about the different kind of formwork which may not be required, the external plastering work. Mr. Samir, you've been into having a very large projects developed, delivered, and still delivering. What do you think, whether the customers as on date, they have been ready to accept these kind of non-plastered, non-painted structures? What would be their perception? And if it is in a negate, then what best is need to be done to accept those, because that's been more sustainable practice. So you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yes, I think the acceptance for a unplastered or exposed concrete surface is definitely very high. There's no challenge with that. The challenge is whether these are sustainable and are good for our weather. The challenge also has been sometimes, especially in hot climate parts of the country like Gujarat, a lot of affordable housing has been done with all concrete internal walls using Maiwan and different formworks. And it does become sustainable, does become from a weather perspective a little difficult in the summer months. So those are the challenges that we need to address. Also, if we have to find a solution, it has to be a hybrid mix of both. It can't be just a simple formwork driven solution for all sorts of housing. Large bungalows which have those kind of luxuries available is a different solution. Commercial buildings is a different problem altogether, because that can be solved with these, like I was saying before, malls or large structures or corporate buildings which use a lot of windows, glass. There's a different ventilation solutions available. So I don't see a challenge in the acceptability of the surface. It's more to do with what the weather inside, what the climate inside has to be like, and whether it is hospitable for the occupants. So that I see is a bigger challenge. And then, of course, the second problem is the cost. India, everything is extremely cost sensitive. Government obviously can spend much more than developers can, but every project, if you go to a developer with any kind of innovative solution, the first question is what is the cost impact? Because we operate in a very tight, very competitive market. So all these, 3D printing, we've been talking about it for the last 15 years in real estate, in construction, but how much is being implemented? So yeah, cost is a huge factor, and I hope the future is getting to a point where the scale is large enough where cost becomes affordable.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And that's what Mr. Raghavendra has also asked, that when we have been comparing the conventional method of plastering on a brick wall with this, the MEWA system, how costly would it be? Would request Mr. Sriram if you could respond to this question.
See, I think it's a good question. Before I can maybe come to his answer, I would just like to give a rejoinder to Samir regarding the thermal comfort of a concrete building. All right, now I think if you really look at it, I think there's been a lot of research which has gone into this around the world. And if you look into our Indian scenario, a good part of it is how are we going to cut off the south and the west, the heat which the wall is going to get from these two directions mainly. So when it comes to this, so one of the easiest things to do is to actually introduce a styrofoam panel within your formwork, and then pour concrete around it. You actually save on the concrete quantity. Then structurally there will be no issues with the building. But this is something which is being done, and I think this is being done quite effectively. Now, if you look at many parts of Europe where they've been doing this, but again they've been actually putting styrofoam panels on the external faces, but there it's mainly to keep the cold out. It's not for the heat. It's mainly to keep the cold out. And there they've been doing it very, very effectively for a very long time, especially if you look at it, almost 85% of the buildings in Turkey are shear wall construction, concrete shear wall construction. And a good part of Turkey has, sub-zero temperatures in a good part of the year. And they've been using these installation systems, which are not very expensive. So this is something which can be definitely taken up. And overall, you can see to it that the thermal comfort, there will be a downgrade compared to anything else, but it will not be much of an issue. The very important aspect is plaster and what's the costing. See, the thing is basically I am talking about a modular formwork system. Maybe one of the ones. In any modular formwork system, when you're going to be using, definitely you'll be saving on cost, big time. Because what happens is, one thing is you're going to be totally avoiding many aspects in your entire construction process, because your entire services are going to be embedded. You're not going to be breaking up anything later. You're going to be deploying very little in the way of capital, because you're going to be doing it piece by piece. You're not going to be bringing in huge technology. It's very expensive for you. And most importantly, you're going to be doing something which is under control, because you ask any of us today, we're all developers here. So the biggest problems we face in masonry structures is the cracks which keep coming in. And this is something which is getting bigger today with the 5-year defect liability period we've got to give on RERA. So given all these aspects, overall, I can bet my last buck that this is going to be much cheaper for you than building a column, putting a beam, doing masonry, then breaking up the wall again to put in your services, and again plastering it. So these are something which are which is against all these actions are not in your control, my dear friends. So this is where definitely you'll be having saving if you're going for a modular construction system.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sriram. And we have been getting more and more questions, but due to paucity of time, we will not take many. The last question, which has been common to all the panelists, eminent panelists. See, the coin has two sides, a head and a tail. So does everything in this world. So I would request you to please throw some light on the flip side of it, that what probably may go wrong, or where we should. The listener would be more careful so that they can make an informed decision. Starting with Mr. Pawan.
That's a tough one for me. I really can't see, frankly, where things would go wrong. The Indian construction industry, and I learned this from a presentation done by a professor, he's the director of IIT Madurai, talking about how, in the Indian construction industry, the average age of a construction worker is 26 years old, as compared to Europe, where it's 44. The productivity in India is incredibly low. And the reason why it's low is very few people are able to survive the harsh environment of a construction site. Yeah, 5 years and they're done with it. They want to move on to do something else. So I think what this is going to do is it's going to hopefully make things easier for them. It's going to require more skilled laborers. It'll require the contractors, and they're doing that more and more, to skill the laborers. You skill the laborers, the laborers last longer in the industry. They become more productive. It's actually a win-win for everyone. And I can just see that improving on it, irrespective of the level of technology that you bring in. I think the skilling of the laborer, that's going to be the important part for me. I really can't see, unfortunately, my wife keeps complaining that I always look at the glass half full. I really don't see the empty part in here right now.
That's been fairly nicely put in words, the tricky questions. Mr. Samir Sinha, what would be the flip side of either the technologies or the product, which you may foresee that the people, while making a decision, should consider, so that it's all good for the project?
No, there's no flip side. The challenge is not just the challenge is the aping the West and applying solutions, technological or any other, to indigenous scenario without customizing it, without indigenizing it. That is the challenge. There cannot be a technology flip side to technology, because if you can't challenge technology, technology will move the way it is intended to move, the way it is moving, especially in today's era of almost exponential growth of technology that we are seeing. So the challenge is not that, but the challenge that all of us will have to adapt to is how do we customize it to our scenarios? How do we adapt it to our scales? And like India, like I was saying before, technology cannot lead to unemployment in India. Technology can only lead to re-employment in India. So that has to be also looked at.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very positive thoughts. Mr. Sriram, a few words from your side before we close.
The biggest problem which our country is going to face is on planning. This is something which I think Mr. Pawan very succinctly made the entire presentation about how important planning is all about. Here, this is somewhere where we really lag very, very much. We always love to do things as we go. We never plan our work and work our plan. So especially when you're embracing technology, it's not forgiving. There's no way it's going to forgive you. So you are going to pay a big price for it. So there, especially when you're engaging technology, a mistake is going to get multiplied by n. You know, it's going to be that bad. So that's the biggest flip side I look at when we are trying to bring in any technology in our country, because we lack on that very, very critical aspect. I think if we can cover that base, I think we are very good at jugaad, where we can actually bring things around, and we can see to it that we can adapt things to our conditions very well.
Thank you, sir. And so it's like that the technologies, the new technologies doesn't have any challenges because they have been successfully implemented elsewhere. The important part is about the customization, indigenization, and the planning. That's been very, very critical aspects of bringing in new technology. Along with that, I would like to add the courage for going into it. That's also very important. We should have faith in the technologies before going ahead with it. With this, we have been coming as an end to the presentation and a Q&A answer session. I would request Mr. Sameer Sinha for his closing remarks and comments.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know if Apurva maybe wants to say a few words before we end. You're mute, Apurva.
Regarding this last point, I would like to say that India is overpopulated country. So along with technology, we must have some policies so that we can accommodate more and more people. Along with technology, you can have more productivity. So that is most important, I would like to say. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm very happy that we've had a good session. How many participants did we have, Puneet?
So we have touched 250 plus.
250 plus. Wonderful. Very nice. Great. Thank you so much, Himanshu. Thank you so much, Apurva. Thank you, Puneet, for putting this together. And obviously, my special thanks to my friend Sriram and to Pawan. Wonderful sessions, wonderful presentation, and your passion, both of you guys, is infectious. And we are hoping that we've all been bitten by that bug. And questions are many, and debate will go on. But it is important to have an open mind and to look at things that are happening around us and try and learn from that. So thank you so much, guys. Wonderful to have you with us, and we hope to continue doing this again. Thank you.
Thank you very
It's
much.
a pleasure being there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.